Welcome to It Starts With Courage podcast with Kat and Jen. What is it? It's everything. Everything you want in life starts with courage. Boom. We're back. We're back. We just had such an amazing discussion for the last 20 minutes and we're like, oh man, maybe we should have recorded that.
Yeah.
So many good things. How do you measure success? That's what I want to talk about today.
Okay.
I think, and I feel like we've said this a couple of times, it's just been a strange couple of years. It really has. The other week, was it last week when the British pound dropped completely? I don't know if you saw this in the news. And it's the first time that I think the dollar was pretty much equal to the pound. Like £1 is to $1. And for as long as I've known, the British pound has always been so strong that coming to America was always like, yeah, you're going to buy so many things because it's technically cheaper. You get like $2 for every pound. So you're buying everything half price. And I saw this post on Instagram and it said, how you define success is a source of happiness you can control. And with what's been going on with the economy and how much strain it's caused on people and post-pandemic and mental health and stuff like that, I feel like lately people have started in a way to redefine what success is to them.
Yeah.
There was a study with, I think there've been several studies, over 100 studies, and which involved over 70,000 people globally. And they found that valuing extrinsic over intrinsic goals predicts lower well-being. So basically when you value like, what when you say monetary or physical things, basically like your well-being is a lot less because it's defined by what can you show, the car that you have, the house that you live in, all that kind of stuff. So I thought maybe we could talk about that.
Yeah.
How?
I think that, there's a lot of people that, that, if they could win a trophy, if they have a trophy, that's like a big deal to them. Like they'll work their butt off for a trophy. Like for me, I don't care about a trophy, but I think that, success is different in our, teens, in our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. Like I think we go through just a progression of life, and we go through times where I remember when I moved to Baton Rouge like 10 years ago, I was starting my business over, and the first 6 months was really slow. I had been successful in North Louisiana, and like I had to start over from scratch. And so when the business started coming in, I remember like working 60, 90 days in a row, like working client after client and feeling like I had to make up for that slow 6 months to keep our family on track and like, just grinding out, starting a new business and everything. And I looked up after that and I was like, oh my God, I haven't worked out. I'm eating, lunch and dinner in the car. I'm like unhealthy. And you kind of have to look at yourself and say, okay, I'm making all this money, but like what other areas of my life have suffered because of that? And I think as we kind of grow up, there is that grinding out period that you have to have in the start of your career or the start of your business. But I think as time goes on and you've got enough money to be comfortable, to have at least a comfortable lifestyle where you're not worried every month that you're not going to be able to pay your mortgage. I think time and happiness comes into play. I've heard people say like you get paid in time or money. So I think in the beginning of our journey, we need the money
so that you can buy the time,
so that later you can have the time.
Yeah. I mean, I see where you're going with that. And it makes sense. It makes sense. I guess I've been looking a lot. I never know which generation it is. Z, X, those people under 30.
Millennials.
Millennials. Under 30. And there was a meme that basically said how Gen X would react to a certain situation versus a millennial, where it's like 5 o'clock has hit on the clock, and Gen X, I guess, would be like, oh yeah, I'll stay a few more minutes to what's it called, to do this extra work that needs to be done. Whereas a millennial would say, well, my paycheck says I am paid until this time for this amount of hours, so I will take care of this when I come in tomorrow. And I found, especially with the pandemic, people are starting to choose their mental health a bit more. They're starting to choose that happiness, and they're starting to choose that time, taking back their time over making that money in order to be able to get that time later on. I don't know if you've seen this same trend. And I mean, I think sometimes we can look at it and be like, oh, it's just them being lazy. They really don't want to put in the effort that's required. They don't want to, they just, are choosing the easier life. But is it because they're now redefining what success is to them? Like you said, we have different times in our lives.
Yeah. I mean, I see that just mental health being a bigger issue in just in all areas. Like I went to the LSU volleyball game last week or the week before, and the soccer game, and it was like mental health week for the different sports. And so they highlighted like their sports psychology office and what resources they have to their student athletes for mental health. So I don't know. I'll probably get slammed for this, but like we just
courage,
never. We never. I didn't have that in college.
Yeah,
nobody talked about that.
No,
we just did. Like nobody talked about like your mental health. Like you just push through it. Like. Yeah. So, I mean, I get like, especially like after the gymnast, like,
like, what's her name that stood up and said, I'm choosing my mental health instead.
Yeah. I feel like it's been, since she did that, like, it's been like more okay for people to be like, I'm taking a mental health day or whatever. But like, we didn't get those days before.
They've instituted those, like especially in higher education, where students, well, not even students, but like training programs at work, you're allowed to take a mental health day without saying what's wrong, but just as a day to.
I think we all take mental health days, but each person has to like figure out like what that means to them. And like what gives you clarity in your mental health, right? Is your mental health day might be going fishing. That would not be what I would do.
Right.
It might be going for a walk. It might be going for a run. It might be going like shopping or, reading a book all day. Like there's things that we know about ourselves that get us back to a place where we feel like, okay, I'm good. Yeah. Like I have some clarity. I'm good to go forward. Yeah. But that's definitely a different trend. But I do think that what we're talking about in success, like some people being mentally healthy and clear is how they
measure success.
Yeah, measure their success.
There's a pie chart where it's like, and I agree with this pie chart. It says before this, how we were taught to measure success was an equal split of the pie, which was job title. So when you think about when you're growing up, it's, oh, what do you want to be? How often do we ask our kids, what do you want to be? What do you want to be? As if that's going to be the definition of success, in the sense that everything you're doing throughout your childhood, throughout your schooling is going to define you. It's going to be a big part of how successful you are in life, that job title that you get at the end, and how much money you make. Those are the two things that I think we were pretty much always taught, especially like not today's generation, but our generations, where it's
Yeah.
salary and job title are the biggest thing. So people work hard and stress about.
Well, the job title meant how much you were going to make.
Yes.
The only people making millions of dollars or $500,000 or more were people, doctors, attorneys, pharmacists, like those types of professions. So you had to have that job title to have that money. Now, anybody can make $1 million on social media. So it doesn't. The world has changed so much that the way you look at that and the way you look,
doesn't fit anymore.
It doesn't fit.
It doesn't fit, because there was a point where doing social media was looked at like, what are you doing? And like now, looking at that same pie chart, it has like 8 different components to it now on how, or a better value of measuring success. So 1/4 is mental health, just like we talked about. And then another, I would say almost 1/4 is physical health, which is what you had mentioned, that when you were in this process of building your business, you've come to this point where you're making all this money, but how has everything else, so are you successful in this area? Are you happy with it?
Right.
And another part that almost takes up 1/4 is liking what you do. And I see a big change in that in a lot of people these days. I remember talking to my brother a long time ago, and and I think my sister as well, and they were basically telling me about the different professions that they're in. They're in the medical field, and that's not what they wanted to do. They don't like it. They don't actually like it. But this was that salary, job title, and it's not oppression necessarily, but this is where I have to go in order to make this amount of money and have this job title. But it doesn't mean that you're actually happy there. So have you been successful if you're going to spend 10 to 12 hours doing a job that you don't actually like?
Right. Something I talk to my daughter about all the time is like, you're accustomed to a certain lifestyle. And if you want to, she's a freshman, so she's trying to figure out like, what do I want to do?
Yeah.
What do I want to study or whatever? And so I was like, my parents never, I went to college on a soccer scholarship, and I wanted to coach in college. So I went into kinesiology. And so that was what I wanted to do. But nobody ever sat me down and said, okay, this is what a college coach makes. This is what you can do with this degree. This is, and so one of the things that I want to do with her is like, okay, here's the lifestyle that you're used to living. And, like look up what these jobs that you're thinking you might be interested in, like potentially pay.
Yeah.
And we've got to find a balance of supporting the lifestyle that you want to have, making the money, but also being happy and having time. And it's funny because she thinks she wants to be an attorney. So she is doing this thing at school, a mock trial. She's being part of that. And the other day, I just listed this almost $1.3 million house in Baton Rouge, and it's gorgeous.
Is this the one that I sent you?
Yes.
Oh man,
yes.
You guys, this house.
So we had 8 showings on it on Monday, and let me back up just a minute. So with Bailey, I've been trying to tell her, oh, you want to be an attorney? You should be a title attorney.
Yeah.
And she's like, no. I don't want to just push paper across the table. Like she wants to argue, like she wants to get into it. And I was like, well, but a title attorney, you don't have to work nights and weekends, and you make really good money. And I kind of explained how what title insurance was, and how if you got in with realtors and me being a realtor, like I could introduce her to people and to help her grow her business. Yeah. So trying to explain to her how it all works. But she's like, I don't want to just push paper. She's been to closings with me. So, so anyway.
And not much is said in closings.
Yeah. So I was showing this house and I got home and I was like, oh, we had like 8 showings. And I said, babe, one was an attorney. And she was like, he was a personal injury attorney. And I was telling him that you were interested in being an attorney and saying that I thought you should be a title attorney. And he was like, well, my partner got out of this and became a title attorney. And let me just tell you, he has a much better quality of life.
There we go.
And makes more money. And so I'm telling this to Bailey, and Bailey's like, I want that. I want a better quality of life and more money. I'm like, oh my God, I have been telling you this.
Yeah.
But you don't listen to your parents. You don't listen to me. Like, I'm trying to tell you, you can be off at 3:00 if you don't have a closing, or you could be, and you're not having to stress on nights and weekends about all this stuff.
And doing extra investigations for injuries or for...
She just doesn't, but why does it take like an outside person to tell her what I've been telling her?
Yeah.
But, quality of life, more money. Better mental health,
right?
Like it all kind of comes together.
And with that, I suppose, for some people, they look at a career that they're like, oh, this is what I really would like, and because I want to make this amount of money. But it takes going into that career to realize this ain't it.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is not it. And I think that's okay too. You out there may be in that position where you're in a career that initially you really wanted to get into, but at this point you see that your physical health is suffering, your family time is suffering, you don't have free time, you no longer like what you do, and it's maybe you're at that point where you're like, what do I do?
Well, and I think my brother was with a company for 12 years. And he was I think people get in these situations where you're making good money. You're making $150,000 a year, and you feel like you're with this company or you're doing this job where you're like, I can't just leave this and go somewhere else. And I now have a family and a mortgage and responsibilities, and it would be irresponsible of me just to leave a job like this. But yet you're super unhappy.
Yeah.
If you're super unhappy in your job, it's going to roll over into your health, your physical health, your mental health, your relationships, the stress that comes with all of that. And sometimes I feel like we always, when it comes to moving jobs, people always think the worst. And I've told my brother this for years. I'm like, you should get into real estate. You are a $300,000 or $400,000 producer stuck in $100,000 a year job.
Yeah, yeah.
But a lot of people making that kind of money think that's the top.
Right.
But if you know yourself and you're driven enough to be successful, let me tell you, there's a lot of companies out there looking for good people who are motivated and determined to take their company to the next level. Yeah. So I don't know. I think I
just feel so. You just motivated me so much there. Whereas Jen said, you are a $400,000 producer stuck in 100,000. Friends, if that's not motivation, think about what you do in your life.
Yes.
What kind of a person are you? And are you just not stuck, but you're afraid, You're
afraid that you can't make what you're making now. But in reality, you can make 4 or 5 times that.
And still have a more free time, still be able to prioritize your health. But I guess it's just knowing what that next move is.
Having a plan. You got to make a plan. Don't just quit.
And then the last 3 parts of this pie that I just want to touch up on real quick is free time, which takes up about, I think this would be a third. And then 1/8 now being job title, where it used to be 50%, and another 8 being salary, where it used to be 50%. So salary and title now take up smaller parts of this pie chart and other things that you should focus on as your measure of success is your mental health, physical health, liking what you do, and your free time. How much flexibility do you have? Like, we shouldn't be living to work, right?
That's
Is that the
right.
one?
Yeah.
We shouldn't be living to work and just focus on salary and title, be happy, have some free time, prioritize your mental health, physical health, relationships, all the things that actually define success. Because no matter how much money you make and who you're working for, if you don't have the free time to enjoy that money,
Or the health.
Yeah.
If you're going to drop dead, the month after you retire or while you're still working, I mean, you have to look at your health in a way that it's like, okay, I'm making all of this money.
Mm-hmm.
And if I look at my family, my husband, my daughter, my son, my wife, and I say, okay, would you rather me be here for 20 more years, or would you rather have
lots of money,
lots of money to inherit? And the answer is going to be they want you here.
You better hope, because
Yes.
if they say that, they just want money.
Well, yeah, then you need to leave. But they're going to want you there. I mean, at the end of the day, the money is nice, but it's not worth your health or a shorter life.
Yeah. And I know someone out there is probably saying, well, that's easier said than done because we need to live, we have bills to pay, which is true. Maybe you need to downgrade. No, I'm kidding. But like, it's true. And we understand that there are things in life where you do have to make money. It's not always easy to choose what you like to do versus what affords the lifestyle you want.
Yep.
But yes, so we just wanted to know, how do you guys measure success out there? Make sure you leave us a message, DM us, or just let us know what's the biggest measure of success for you. What's more important? Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of It Starts With Courage podcast with Kat and Jen. If you like this episode of the podcast, visit our website, iswcpodcast.com, for show notes and other cool things.